Thank you,
Good
Veronica.
morning. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the fiscal year 23-24 HEP training. Today's July 13th, and I hope you're all having a great day, getting some rain and getting our gardens growing. We want to officially welcome you to the training today, and we are happy to share that 29 agencies were funded under MSHDA's HEP grant for this fiscal year 23-24. So we've got just about everybody that we've had in the past on board, and we're happy to see you all and to continue to be your partners. My name is Carol Brito. I am the Program and Business Development Manager for MSHDA's Home Ownership Division, and our HEP program is so proud to be your partner by providing funding and training for the important counseling and educational services that you all provide to members of your community. So thank you again very much for being here and for being part of our lives. Uh, Next slide, we're going to talk about today's training, as Tara already mentioned. Tara, are you moving the slides forward for us? We're still on the first slide. Hang on just a sec. We're going to get this, make sure our slides are moving forward before I go on. There we go. All right, next slide. The third slide is basically reiterating that what Tara said, that we are recording this webinar. So if someone from your shop isn't available today or is not able to join us, and you can always refer to the training as well when you need to, if you've got some questions. And then also, next slide, due to the length of today's training, we will not be offering Q&A at the end of the training like we do in many of our meetings. Instead, we ask that you please think about things as you're hearing them and submit your questions in the chat box. We'll do our best to try to respond to each question. But if we have them documented in the chat box, then that's better for everyone moving forward. We'll send out a transcript of the Q&As along with the email with the recording of today's presentation. So you'll be getting everything in an email, like I said, along with the answers. So make sure you put your questions in there, and we'll be happy to address those after the meeting. Today, we're going to be covering the HEP grant program and compliance requirements, eligible expenses under the HEP grant award, as well as reporting requirements and expenditure monitoring. Also, we'll have an overview of the newish, fairly new IGX billing system and final reminders. So I think that it ends my part of this, and now the hard work goes to pass it on to one of our valuable team members, Veronica DePatti. Veronica, take it away. It's all yours. Have fun, everybody. Learn some stuff.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Carol, and good
Sure.
morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Next slide, please. Um, so just to let you know, our fiscal year 23-24 HEP period of performance began on July 1st, actually, that's not right. Sorry about that, guys. 2023 is the year that we're in, and it ends on June 30th of 2024. So expenses that you can bill towards your grant is starting on July 1st of this year and must be completed on June 30th. So just to clarify, we already are midway through July, which I don't like to think about because it waits too long for summer to get here. So I hate rushing through summer because that's my favorite season. But I will say this, that some of you sometimes each year ask if you could back bill. You can, only to July 1st. So if you had expenses under the May, June area timeline, that will not be eligible for your current and new HEP grant. Next slide, please. And we're going to just touch base on program and compliance. And I'm going to just take a quick second. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone here. All right, next slide, please, Tara. Thank you. So program compliance. So we're going to talk a little bit about requires you to follow HUD's Housing Counseling Handbook and the 24 CFR 214 for policy and program compliance. And so make sure that whatever you're doing, we're trying to make it easy for you. Whatever you do for HEP is mirrored and is closely aligned with your HUD policies and requirements as well. So what you do for one, you do for all. So next slide, please. So, following today's presentation, we're going to be providing you with a copy of our HEP Counseling Handbook, and that's something that you receive annually from us. It is just a simple guidebook just to reiterate the fact that we do comply and mirror with the HUD program policies and requirements and compliance. So, we provide you with hyperlinks and so forth to a variety of subjects. In where to find those within the HUD Housing Counseling Handbook and also CFR. As you may know, there's a majority of questions that we come across as we do programming does not necessarily get answered within the HUD Housing Counseling Handbook. So the HUD Exchange website is really going to be your go-to. If you are new to the programming and you want kind of um, that explanation or guidance and how to find answers, don't hesitate to reach out to me and I'll be able to walk you through that process. Next slide, please. So, with that being said, Tara and I offer a variety of technical assistance opportunities. We do this on behalf of HUD, and I want to make sure that you know that these are available as you see here, and we can be doing these either remotely or on site at the agency. We can touch base on, which is now not the MAT billing system. My apologies, everyone, but the IGX billing system, as well as the counseling handbook and the CFR regulations, document requirements for your files, and even your income and expense management and what you need to do for that. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about eligible expenses under your HEP grant. And this is going to look really quite similar. In fact, mirrored to your current grad that you just finished. So let's go ahead and look. Next slide. So the eligible services has only one additional item, which we're very proud of. This year, we are adding HECM reverse mortgage counseling. So we've been talking about that for the past 6 to 8 months now that we have added that. We offered a training about that, and I know some of you are considering adding that service type. It isn't just a matter of, updating your HUD housing counseling work plan to be able to provide that service. It's more detailed. If that is something, we do encourage you to consider. Offering that service. And we do have an agency or two agencies actually under our Mishta family that's doing that type of programming. So we certainly have some information if you're considering it. Uh, we are going to be offering this not only financially supporting you through this grant, but also our upcoming HUD grant as well. I know some of you have been waiting for us to be able to offer this service type, the HECM reverse mortgage counseling under our HUD grant. And some of you have thought about transferring under myself and Tara for your HUD programming, and we would welcome that. Our HUD, just to kind of put a tickler out there, our fiscal year 23 HUD grant NOFA has not been released yet, but we anticipate it being released this summer. So let me know prior to that if you would like to join our HUD subgrantee family, and we will add you in. All right, next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. Group education is remaining the same and as well. So you'll see all the familiar uh, services here. Next slide, please. Okay, thanks, Tara. So this is where things kind of confuse folks a little bit when we talk in federal terminology about allowable, allocable, and reasonable as far as costs. The important thing is that costs must be necessary for proper and efficient performance and administration. So again, we mirror your HUD program requirements. So this is going to sound very familiar. So I hope that this will be helpful to kind of offer, shed some light, if you will, on both funding sources. So when you consider the expenses you're going to be charging to your HEP or HUD grants, it is important to recognize that we adhere to the same requirements of federal funding allowances. So all expenses must align within one of these three categories, which again are allowable, allocable, and reasonable. Your expenses must fall in line with these three categories. Now understand that there are some situations when a special expense may be submitted for approval, which may be outside of the listed budgetary items. We encourage you to contact Tara and myself with these special requests. However, prior to doing so, understand that if the expense or purchase is not truly necessary to the performance of the grant award, it most likely will not be approved. For example, your agency may want to offer agency swag gifts as door prizes for your homebuyer education class participants. And while this may be a reasonable cost because you were able to find a great deal online, having door prizes is not necessary to the performance of your HEP award and therefore will not be allowed. Next slide, please. So you'll see here, this matches what you've provided for your eligible um, expense categories under your HEP budget and personnel direct labor costs for your staff, for example, who directly work with a program. This can include counselors, educators, program managers, and director oversight, and even intake specialists who are not certified counselors. Next is credit reports. Next is training for counselors, managers, and directors, and we encourage you to pursue that continuing education. And next is travel related to either training, events, or the delivery of services. It could be as simple as wanting to go to a housing fair in the next county over that you serve, and that is eligible. Meals which are for training and travel only. This does not include client meals such as pizza or donuts for your classes. While nice, this is not an allowable or necessary for the delivery of services. Supplies, this is needs to be clarified. Sometimes there can be some confusion about this. So supplies for your programming, such as client folders, for your group or individual counseling folders are allowed. Printing cost, online platform memberships such as Zoom or Skype are all allowed. Printer ink, printer paper, um, calendars, pens, planners, um, notepads, calculators for your to hand out as gifts to your participants. All of those are not allowed because basically it could be used by somebody or a program that is not directly related to the housing counseling program. Now, say for example, you want calculators and you want to keep them for your class, your budget class, for example, and you'll use them class to class. That would be allowed because obviously that is something that is used as part of your curriculum that stays within your materials that you pull out every class. That is an allowable expense, but buying yourself a calculator to hand out to as a gift with your logo on it is not allowed. Marketing and advertising, which we strongly encourage you to utilize your funds for in creative ways, and translation services as well as needed as your client management system user fees. Next slide, please. So here you'll see allowable expenses. It just is a synopsis of the detail that I provided you already. This is matching your budget. If I've gone back to you, please, when you fill out your budgets, make sure that you pay attention to the description column because it will provide you kind of very simple reminders of what is and is not allowed. Next slide, please. So another eligible expense, which is not required, is indirect allocations. And this is an opportunity for you to take a 10% de minimis or your governmentally approved NICRA, negotiated indirect cost rate agreement. So I want to explain what these are first and foremost. So first of all, if you choose to elect funds, um, you will choose either one of these three categories. Number one is a de minimis. Now, a de minimis is for those folks who do not have an approved NICRA. And how you will do that is you will take 10% from your total direct personnel labor costs or line A. So it's not against your whole grant award, it's just based on line A. Now, this can trip you up because as you bill for your indirect expenses under a 10% de minimis, we know that your budgets can be a living document and change as the year goes on. Well, if you find that you need to move, maybe counselor left, and so you're not using as much in your labor costs, for example, under line A of your estimated budget. What's going to be important for you to do is to make sure that you understand that your de minimis will immediately need to change as well. So there's two ways to do this without prevention of your ability to change those, reduce your line A budget. Number one is for you to wait until the very last bill to bill any of your de minimis. That way you can go into your billing system, see what your end total was for line A labor costs and take 10% of that. And just wait to bill out your indirects until the very, very end. The other option that you have is to just draw 10% of your labor or line A during each bill. So if you had, a certain amount that you're billing, you're going to just take 10% of that amount of line A and just add it to your bill. If you go and say, well, I had $1,500 and I need to, and I build it immediately all at once on my first or second agency submitted bill under the HEP grant, and now you find yourself needing to change labor. I'm going to see that and not let you change your budget and have to keep your line A labor costs the same as you budgeted because you painted yourself into a corner by taking your immediately expending out your 10% de minimis, and now you have no flexibility in your line A grant. The only flexibility that you would have is this, say you want to increase your line A budget amount towards labor and you want to take additional 10%, that's fine. But you will never be able to decrease your line A if you immediately take your de minimis. So those are some really important reminders. Now, your NICRA, for some of you who don't know what a NICRA is, it's probably because you don't have one. A NICRA is where you go to the government and you say, regardless of the grant, our NICRA is going to be set at 6% or 18%. Your grant funder is not allowed to force you to not take that. That has been governmentally approved and solidified. So even if you find out, wow, I could have taken a 10% de minimis, but our NICRA is only 6%, unfortunately, you're capped at the NICRA. So you must take that. Now, again, indirect costs is an eligible expense. You are not required to take it. So you can select either to not take that at all and put it towards your direct costs. I will tell you, as a former nonprofit guru, I will tell you that there's always going to be expenses that you have. If you want those pens, if you want those planners, if you want the calendars, if you want the swag deal for your, to toss out to the audience of your classes, that's where your de minimis and NICRA could be spent. Or it could be on utilities or rent of your office space or legal attorney or your annual audits. It's your choice how you spend your indirect costs allocations. It's not up to us. It's up to you how you want to spend that. So it's really good money to be able to help support your organization in different ways that oftentimes you find that your grants will not pay for. So next slide, please. Okay, I'm seeing a delay here. So hopefully you can see this slide okay. It's like hovering between the two, at least on my end, Tara, just to let you know. So these next two slides are just, thank you, is just another piece of detail that I shared. You can, again, use these funds and there's no restrictions on how it's spent. These are some examples of indirect costs and how you can use it. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. So indirect costs, again, everything that I've gone through, you will see how these can be calculated and spent out. So these next couple of slides are going to be just reminders. We can go to the next slide. So with your budgets, we know that there is no best prediction, and these will change as the year goes on. So understand that your budget is a living document. If you want to update your budget and move things around, we encourage you to do so, but we request that you send it over to us for approval prior to incurring the expense. So make sure you do that ahead of time. Otherwise, if you've already paid for a catered meal for your clients of 200, you're going to have to eat that cost because more than likely it may not be something that we would approve. So before you incur the expense, we encourage you strongly to send it over to us. And always, if you're wanting to get some ideas on how to spend the money. Sometimes agencies find that they have some funds that they're unable to expend. Reach out to Tara and I, and we can certainly help you spend the money because the last thing we want is for you to have any funds reallocated. Next slide, please. So this is something that I want you to print off and put on your wall if you do any agency billing. This is going to be that a very crucial and important reminder of your de minimis and your, and this does not apply to NICRAs. This is only for de minimis folks. So print this off and keep it handy as you're doing your billing because sometimes it's hard to remember all of these important things. So next slide, please. So effective January 1st of 23, these are the maximum costs allowed to bill under your HEP grant, and these are the state per diem rates. And these costs are for travel and meals inside as well as outside of Michigan. For example, if you travel to California for NeighborWorks training and plan to bill it to your HEP grant, then you will use these allowable rates. If you bill your travel to your HUD grant, then you will use the federal rates, which are higher actually. So even if those costs exceed your current agency's per diem rates, so say for example, um, your agency only allows you to bill uh, $65 for lodging. Um, oh, we lost our screen, Tara. I'm not sure where that went. Is it on my side or your side, Tara? Hey, Tara. Oh, there
Did
we
you
go.
get it? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So even if your agency only, oh, it keeps flashing on and off.
Oh my.
Okay, and Lori's now sharing her screen. So, okay. Oh, it's yours.
Is it mine?
Yeah, Tara, I'm seeing your email and I'm seeing myself and I'm not seeing. Carol, are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. Tara, do you have your VPN hooked up still?
I do. Let
Might
me
disconnect
shut
this.
that down.
Try to disconnect that, right click and then
Yeah,
disconnect.
yeah.
Sometimes that helps. I don't know how, but it does, evidently. Good
So I'll
luck.
just continue to talk
Yeah,
while Tara's putting this up because right now we just see myself and um,
yeah.
the webinar list, but not the screen, not
Mhm.
the PowerPoint. So, so as I was saying, your agency may have a cheaper rate for hotels. I will tell you that this should supersede that. So mileage, sometimes I run into agencies who pay less in mileage than the state or federal rates. Make sure your agency is reimbursing you for what you truly can get. So this should supersede for the allowance of what your expenses are. Thanks, Tara. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat. I'm going to turn it over to Tara now for her portion of the presentation. I will navigate my way through the chat box and be able to answer any immediate questions that you may have. Thanks, everyone.
Oh my gosh. So I apologize, everybody. I'm trying to do my two screens and do the PowerPoint. So that is what is going on. So I apologize. Let me share my screen again.
Tara, do you want me to try and do it myself for you?
You know what? If you can navigate, because if I'm trying to go through my PowerPoint, or try to show my piece of it, it's not allowing it keeps clicking off my sharing. Do you want to take can you share yours? So I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to go through mine.
Tara, can you see that okay?
I can. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely.
I apologize when I was trying to bring my my piece of it up, and then if you click off the PowerPoint, then you have to go back and try to get it back to, so I
Mhm.
apologize.
We're seeing the notes section too, guys. Is that okay? So you've got the slide on the one side. This is what I'm seeing. And then on the right side, I'm seeing the notes.
Oh, maybe Veronica's.
You're not
Yeah.
in presenter mode, Veronica.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. So I need to go. Oh,
Thank
my
you, Kim.
heavens sakes.
Kimberly, yes,
Sorry,
thank you.
sorry, look at you.
Okay, let me try this.
There we go.
Is
Thank
that
you
better?
very
Oh,
much.
thank
Yes,
you.
thank you so
You got
much.
it. You
Thank you.
got it.
That is going to be much easier for me to do. So thank you. Okay, now that we've got that figured out, I am Tara Gilman and I do work alongside Veronica and Carol with our HEP and HUD grants. And mainly, well, a strong portion of what I do is work in the IGX and MAP billing system. We are transitioning from the MAP billing system to IGX. So that is been a fun time. So next slide, please. So we'll talk about reporting and tracking and just a little bit about the tracking and reporting piece. This year, we are not requiring any reporting except for we do have one piece that we're going to talk about a little bit later. So next slide. So as Veronica had mentioned about calculating your fully loaded hourly rate, your agency is eligible to seek reimbursement for employees using the fully loaded hourly rate. This is an example for you to see here. If you are new to doing billing within your HEP grant and do have questions about that, please feel free to reach out to Veronica or I, and we can help you with really how that breaks down. Next slide, please. So your time and activity report, this has been uploaded into the IGX system. It is a template for you to use. It's used to track all billable hours for both direct and indirect labor costs. And they're broken down into a green area, which is direct expenses. Indirect expenses are in a gray shaded area. The TAR only tracks labor hours, not other types of expenses billed to your grant. So just keep that in mind. It's only for hours. Again, if you have questions, nothing's changed on there from years prior, but this is uploaded into the IGX billing system and is a template for you to use. So if you ever need to get a clean copy, that is there for you to use. Also, if there were to be any updates to that, we don't foresee it needing to be updated, but if we run into something needs to be updated, you will always be able to find that in the IGX system. Again, if you have questions about how to complete that, please feel free to reach out to Veronica and I, and we can help you with that. Next slide, please. So grant balance monitoring, we want to ensure your agency is working closely with your financial team if you have one. If you are that financial person, we just hope that you are keeping really good track of what your spending habits and allowances are or your expenditures. What we don't want to happen is that you aren't aware of, some spending that's been going on. And what I mean by that is we know that you have to if in your budget you have maybe some expenses that you thought that you could build towards the grant, you didn't get prior approval, we want to make sure that you are in communication with your financial team just to make sure that you are on the same page and that really you know where you're at with expending your funds. If you have a question or um, are unsure of really what you've spent, I'm assuming most of you do, because you are either that person or you do have that strong communication with your financial team. You can always go out into IGX, look at your bills and see where your remaining balance is. So just make sure that you're keeping track of that. Next slide, please. So now we'll jump into IGX. Um, this has, I would say on our end, we are pretty excited. Navigating through a new system is always a little tough, but I think for the most part, things have gone pretty smoothly. But so we'll just dive into some of the things that are new in the IGX system. So next slide, please. So as you know, compensation rates and billing, as Veronica stated, the grant period for HEP was July 1st, 2023 to June 30, 2024. We will still continue to reimburse on the fully loaded hourly rate. And as I mentioned a couple slides before, if you have questions in regards to that, please feel free to reach out. All bills for this HEP 2324 grant will be in IGX. So everything moving forward is going to be in IGX. I know that we're closing out the 22, 23 HEP grant. That is being done in MAT. So we're gonna focus mainly on what's 23, 24. So we are making that transition. Everything is going to be done in IGX, and hopefully it will run as smooth as getting the application and the grants into IGX. So bills must be submitted for payment within 60 days from the date of service. I know that we have not been fully holding agencies accountable for this 60-day kind of rule that we've had. We really want to work with you, but what happens is um, if we go out the 60 days, um, we really are hoping that we can get on a schedule, get monthly bills in there. It makes things a lot easier on your end for tracking purposes, and it really it makes things easier on Mishta's end as well. But we do have this in writing to say 60 days. If something were to come up, please reach out to us and we can work with you. If something may have happened at the agency level that you're not able to do so. But rule of thumb, 60 days from the date of service is what we would like to stick with. Your time and activity reports still need to be uploaded in the IGX billing system. So that's going to be your supporting documentation for each of the bills that you will submit. Just a reminder, Mishta, Veronica, I, and Carol have 30 days to approve bills. We try not to have to go out to that time period. What I normally do is I usually 2 to 3 days a week, I try to go in and make sure that the bills aren't sitting out there. I am the first person that receives the bills, then it goes to Veronica, then it goes to Carol for final approval. From there, it does go to our finance team, and then they do cut that check for reimbursement. So we do have a process, but we try not to let bills sit out there for 30 days. Next slide, please. So again, if you're new to the billing, bills, you can only have one bill running at a time. And what I mean by that is you can enter a bill in, submit it, but you're not able to submit another bill until that first bill is approved. So nothing has changed on that. Um, Really, it helps keep the running total of your bills in line, so you don't have funds that are not accounted for in the next bill. So next slide, please. So, each of you on the call, I want to welcome all of you again in being successful in submitting a grant and being awarded this year's HEP grant. So all of you are familiar with the IGX system. You submitted an application, you submitted or are in the process of submitting your grant agreements in IGX. The next step after your grant has been input into, or I guess I should say uploaded into IGX, you will then be able to create bills. Again, that grant period is July 1. As Veronica had mentioned, even though you may not have a grant agreement signed and it's fully executed, you can still back bill to that July 1 date. When I sent your award notification, I sent out a PowerPoint on how to navigate for bill creation, which is in the IGX system. The bill creation or financial status report, which is the FSR, and it's labeled that in IGX. And the reason why is because we are making things across the board for Mischa. So other divisions have always used the language of financial status report. So we are going to adopt that. But I did send out that PowerPoint. If you have not looked at it, please look at it. I really go through step by step on how to create that or initiate that bill, and really how to all of the kind of bill summary and all of that remains the same as you are familiar with in the MAT2 system. So we try to keep everything the same. It's a little bit of a different look, but again, everything functions the same way, everything looks the same way. Um, but if you have questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to go over any questions that you may have. Next slide, please. So again, initiating an FSR, which is the bill, the financial status report, that PowerPoint that I did send to you does lay this out. I really just wanted you to have kind of a first look if you haven't already been into the system and been able to kind of navigate. I really wanted you to have a first look on what it looks like to be able to initiate that bill. So again, your grant has to be fully executed within the IGX system in order to be able to initiate that FSR. I did have a question come up yesterday in an email. I'm going to address it right now. As you know, the authorized official, authorized signer had to submit your your grant award within the IGX system. So they had to upload it, they had to submit it. Um, all of that is the same as in years past. Initiating the bills, an authorized official does not have to do that. It can be the administrator. So any staff, any counselors that were added within your agency are able to submit that FSR. So the authorized official does not have to do that. It's only the application, only your annual profile, and only your grant. And really that is for audit purposes, the trail that we need on the MISTA end for those purposes. Just to say there are separation of duties. It is an authorized official, which your authorized official is usually an executive director of your agency. So they really know, that they are signing off on receiving these grant funds. So just for clarification, an authorized official does not have to submit your agency bills. So next slide, please. Again, your bill summary looks the same. All of the same line items are there. Again, I just wanted to do some screenshots of what it looks like if you haven't had a chance to go in there and kind of navigate through what the billing would look like. Nothing has changed. So any of you that are not new, I don't know that we have some newbies on here, but if you do have questions, please feel free to reach out. But I would really, really strongly encourage you to look at the PowerPoint that I sent out. It really goes through each step. If I have missed something, please let me know because I can make those changes, get that updated and sent it out or resend it out to all of you. But I'm hoping that what it does is really goes through the step-by-step process of how to do this. So next slide, please. I really wanted to focus on really that next step of initiating a bill. So I will just move forward with that piece of it. Next slide, Veronica.
Do you
So
see
while
it?
we're waiting, no, not yet.
Okay, it's on the FAQs. So
Okay. Okay. So the FAQs is if you have questions about the frequently asked or if you have frequently asked questions, we'll really be able to assist you with those. Oh, sorry. Let's see, Veronica. Just gonna go here really quick. Oops.
Carol, can you confirm if you see the FAQ page on your screen?
Yes, I do. Yep, I see it.
Okay,
Front
perfect.
and
Yep,
center.
I can see it now. Yep. So does the 3-year document retention period also apply to previous grants or just this grant forward? We did change that 3-year file retention, which began in 2021. So that was our change for the retention policy that we had. It doesn't change any former rules for those of you that have been around for a while. It doesn't change those rules that were set in place for previous grants, but we have changed that 3-year document retention period. Can you explain staff mileage in relations to training and travel? Veronica had given a snapshot of those travel rates. So please just look at those. That again is what we have to follow for the state of Michigan for reimbursement for those expenses. Um, next FAQ is, we have hired a new counselor who is pending HUD certification. Can I bill for their time? We have had this question several times. Yes, you may bill for their time. It is time that they have spent shadowing other certified counselors, participating in group education, as well as the time they spend performing other duties such as data entry and training, and etc. Remember, you're not allowed to perform individual services until they have reached the certification, though. Changes to your budget. As Veronica had mentioned previously, we know that your budget was a best guess. So if you have changes that need to be made throughout the grant period, please, before you make expense purchases or have changes to the budget that you want to make, please get prior approval. What we don't want to happen, as Veronica had mentioned, is that we're unable to approve that because it's an afterthought or after the fact of getting that budget approved. So we might mainly, most likely will approve those, but you do need prior approval. Next slide, please. So ongoing support and technical assistance. Veronica had mentioned earlier that Veronica and I are here to help support you in any way that you need to be supported. Questions, technical assistance, ideas. We are here to be able to do that with you. Next slide. So monthly agency connection time. This is something that we hope has been valuable in previous grant rounds. We meet monthly, and that is the uh, second Tuesday of the month. And Veronica, I believe that we have really kept um, I think we have that on everybody's calendar still. I just want to confirm, but I think that we have kept those dates on there for everybody, and we hope that it's been valuable for you. It's a time that you, at the agency level, it's the topics are up to you. If you have something that you think that would benefit other agencies and you would like to send those to Veronica and I, we can share those topics and, make that monthly kind of time with that specific topic. Otherwise, it is really an open forum, communication. It really, the last several, I would say the last year that we have really gone this route has been very beneficial, and we've come up with some really good training topics that Veronica and I and Carol are looking at for this coming year. So um, we're hoping that it's beneficial. So Veronica, Carol, anything else that you would like to add, or are there any questions in the chat?
Definitely questions in the chat. I think Veronica, have you been monitoring?
I've been running the
Little-
screen, so I have not jumped on
Yeah,
yet. I
okay.
just wanted to offer, in regards to the monthly agency connection time, if there's anyone in the agency that uh, has not received the ongoing calendar invite,
Mhm.
the link remains the same each month, so you don't have to worry about that. But definitely reach out to me and I will add that person to the connection time meetings. And just as Tara said, we've got a lot of great ideas. This next month in August, uh, I plan to divide everyone up by regions. So we do breakout rooms by topics unless we stay together in the same room and discuss everything as one complete group. So next month, I hope to break up everyone into regions so you guys can stay connected and see what the other one has going on and just share ideas and, learn who each other are so you can best support each other. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
So one thing, so there was a question in the chat, is there an IGX help desk? So Lisa, there is, if you can let me, actually, if you want to reach out to me, send me what your situation is. I think what is happening. So I'm gonna kind of share a little bit of so Lisa asks, is there IGX help? We've been trying for weeks to get our CFO and financial grants manager added and have had no luck. It says system access request and process. What I have understood is that, Lisa, I think that what has happened is you initially completed the user request, but haven't fully sent that request to our Mr. IT team. So it looks like you need to do one more step um, for our Mr. IT team to get that request because they're not seeing it on their end. But please send me an email and I can help you out with that. Kim asked, where would Zoom fall under in the budget?
So Zoom expenses would fall under the supplies line, please. The only technical membership costs that would be different line item would be your client management system. Everything else could go under supplies. So
Thank you.
Zoom or anything like that. Or, if you want to do follow in line with like doctor's offices and do like text reminder apps and stuff, that is an expense that's allowable and you could bill that under your supplies line as well. So thank you. Any other questions, Tara?
Yeah, so I guess Sue, I'm going to read your question. We are able to bill contracted HUD certified counselors doing counseling and education to the HEP grant, correct?
Are you talking, Sue, in regards to subcontracted outside of the agency? Or are you talking about internal staff?
Hi, Veronica, Tara, and Carol. Thank you for asking. We are considering hiring a contracted, already HUD certified person. We know her. She's been with us for many years. She's kind of between jobs and working on a limited license psychology degree. So, yes, we would love to have her back. You all know her well, but in the interim, it occurred to me that maybe we could bill her, ask for a budget a budget revision, and then actually bring her on board for a temporary period of time while she's working on her other life goals. So I just wondered what you thought about that. She wouldn't be permanent. She wouldn't be, but she's already got her HUD certification and
Okay.
those things.
So let me ask you like this as an LLC holder myself. So is this going to be like an LLC contract or is this going to be like a part-time employee, temporary employee?
This is a temporary employee.
Got it. So that
Potentially,
makes it
yeah, full-time.
super easy, super, super easy. And the easy answer is yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you were subcontracting out services, say for example, you want HEC and reverse mortgage support and you don't have anybody certified, but you're going to subcontract out somebody in Georgia that's part-time, and they have like a side business, but they're HUD and all that, then we would have to follow kind of some complex navigating that, you know, with the subcontract and the memorandum and stuff, which I can help you with. But since I know that they are going to be getting a direct paycheck and they're considered an employee, temporary or part-time or full-time, whatever, absolutely not a problem. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
yeah.
Good.
And, you
Thank
know, I
you.
would encourage you anytime you're applying for your grants, whether it's through MISHA or otherwise, Sue, I would count them as capacity building because they are definitely counted as staff and that increases the funds that you can get secret. So that message will self-destruct as soon as the presentation's done. Okay.
Right. Don't forget we're video recording this. So
True.
thank you very
So,
So the next question, so thank you, Sue. Thank you, Veronica, and thank you for that clarification on the LLC piece of it, because that does that is a little bit different. So Lisa had another question, and I don't know that we covered it. Did you suggest charging rent or swag to indirect if HEP doesn't cover it?
yep.
Did we-
So thanks for yeah, we talked about it a little bit, and indirects again are an eligible opportunity to bill things that are not allowed under the top half of your direct expense line. So Lisa, for sure, you can bill swag to it. You can bill, I don't know, whatever, maybe an HR supportive role or secretarial role or somebody that is, doesn't have direct relations to your housing counseling team and department. Does that help?
Yeah, and maybe I heard something that you didn't say. So
Okay.
if, let's say Ashley buys some kind of swag for the HEP program,
Yep.
really that's not an allowable indirect cost because indirect costs are those that are not directly attributable to a program. In that case, that would be directly attributable to HEP. So it should not be a charge to indirect. So was that what you were saying or no?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
Complete opposite of everything you said. So
Okay.
direct expenses, and let me see if I can pull up that slide. So, let me see here and see if I can go back up. All right. So just a second.
Did you get it, Veronica?
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about this one first. So this is the allowable, allocable, and reasonable. So again, you have to make sure that your costs are necessary for proper and efficient performance. So when we talk about HEP, we're just going to refer to your department as Housing Counseling Department, okay? Because you can have multiple funding streams coming in. So this would be for your HUD funds as well as your HEP funds through us, okay? So if you have in your grant budget, you have funds that cover, and let's go to the next slide. So these would be your eligible expense categories. Personnel, which is your labor, credit reports, training, travel, meals, supplies, marketing, advertising, translation services, and client management system user fees. Your supplies would be things that are directly related to your housing counseling department. So it could be the purchase of, if you guys are still paper folder and not electronic filing, it could be like green folders for home buyer ed class and red folders for foreclosure clients and yellow folders for financial clients. Maybe you need to do it that way. Or group education files. It could be, like I said, calculators used in class. It could be books that you buy that you use for teaching classes. If you're talking about agency swag bags, like you want to buy a bunch of grocery totes with your logo on it for advertising, that is not allowed because while it's
Yeah.
super cool and awesome, it is not it is not urgent and pertinent to the delivery of your services, whether it be counseling or otherwise. However, if you want brochure printing, that is definitely an allowable expense if the brochures are specifically for housing counseling. If you're printing brochures, for example, that includes food pantry and homeless assistance as well as your housing counseling, that is not an allowable expense. Anything that would fall outside of these categories here would automatically be eligible for billing under the indirect costs,
So
which
what
would
about per space? I don't see space on there.
rent is not an allowable expense, only under this. So only under your indirect costs, whether it be a 10% de minimis or a NICRA. That that falls in line with federal regulations. So rent, utilities are not an allowable expense under the HUD Housing Counseling Grant and HEP unless it is for unless you bill it to your indirect costs.
But
And that falls in line with the CFR regulations.
But it really doesn't. So this would be like if I said the same thing to Head Start.
But remember, this is specific to HUD Housing Counseling Department. Okay, so this is your Head Start program is running completely different.
Right.
So,
I guess,
yeah.
but Head Start doesn't tell me you can't charge space costs to the Head Start grant. I can't charge the HUD costs or the HEP costs to indirect because it doesn't benefit all programs. That's not allowable cost of indirect.
You can't, you have to, so for example, if you want to do rent, you take the entire square footage of your building and do the calculation of your square footage for the office space of your housing counselor, and that's the percentage that you can bill under indirects.
We have a cost
So it
allocation,
wouldn't be.
but what I'm saying is, and if you want
Okay.
me to get someone from Cap Law to talk to you about that, that's not allowable cost of indirect.
It is under the HUD. So remember your HUD housing counseling through the CFR, and we can talk offline about
Okay,
this,
that's
Lisa.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry to belabor
definitely.
this for
Yeah,
everyone
because
else.
the CFR regulations allow your indirect costs to be used for whatever expense that you feel necessary and that you want to spend it on. And it's written in those regulations. But remember, you're talking apples and steak here. It's
Yeah.
two completely different federal programming, and so their guidelines cannot be mirrored.
Okay, I'd like to see that if you could send
Yeah,
it to me, Veronica, that would be
absolutely.
super
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Any other? Yeah, definitely. Any other questions, Tara?
No, I'm not seeing any other questions.
All right.
The only thing that I do is encourage all of you. I do want to just make one kind of clarification. If you have not submitted your signed grant agreement, please do so as soon as you can, because again, you're not able to bill for your 23-24 grant until we have received your grant agreement through IGX and that it's fully executed. So if you have questions on that, please let me know. One of the things that I did want to mention to those of you that have not sent your grant agreements through IGX yet is Karen had asked the question at the beginning of our training about grant budget. You only are able to submit a paper budget with your grant application. So please make sure that you upload that with your signed grant agreement. I know within IGX, it does show the breakdown of direct and indirect costs. Unfortunately, you're not able to make those entries. It has to happen on the MISTA end. So please just upload your grant budget with your signed agreement and we will make those adjustments on our end. if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me offline and I can help you with that. But you're not able to do that within the IGX system, and that's something we'll have to look at changing next year. But this year we're just doing the paper copy attached to your signed grant agreement. Other than that, I'm not seeing any other questions. We want to thank you all for joining us today. Again, if you think of something that you didn't think of on the call, we are happy to answer any questions that you may have. But other than that, thank you for joining us. We are going to give 20 minutes back to you all, and we hope to hear and talk to you all soon. Thank you and have a great rest of your
everybody.
week.
Yeah. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Jack. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.